So how is the fatherhood for you?
I love it. It enlightens me. It makes me care less about myself. So business is now a free spirit. It's not something I'm driven by business. I'm driven by my daughter, and business is a supplementary element of that. So if you've got that fire under you, the baby is driving you rather than anything else. As you know, it's everything, isn't it? It's the reason you're here.
You just got something to care more than anything else.
Yeah, I love being a father. But also, a business is like a child as well. I've also had 2 new children. I've had a new business and then the baby. So it was a lot in 1 year. I actually started 2 businesses last year. One had a difficulty with a business partner. So you got to be careful who you work with. You got to find good people and you got to find people you trust.
I guess it's difficult to judge. You can't understand that you can trust a person straight away.
You got to make a mistake. If you bring someone into your circle and they're a bad person, you don't know until they're in your circle. Think of it like a fishing net. If you're out fishing, you'll catch some good fish and some bad fish. Some fish you have to throw back. Sometimes in business, you have to throw clients back. You have to throw staff back. You have to throw business partners back. And there's plenty more fish in the sea. I run most of my life as a fishing analogy. Business is about catching tuna, not mackerel. But some businesses, they need mackerel. They need volume rather than quality. And some people need quality over volume. B2B usually is quality over volume. B2C is volume over quality. That's how I represent most of the analogies around business, and it works. If marketing is your fishing rod, so your different rods out in the market, your different channels of engaging with an audience, your audience are the fish, and then your actual business is the boat. So you've got to put your boat on the sea to be operative. And if you're operating in a sea that's turbulent, then you need to actually have a better boat. And you have to buy more rods, so you have to effectively invest more in marketing. The trouble is when there's a bad environment, like last year, businesses reduce cash flow and they don't invest in marketing. And that's what happens when you get a resilience against pushing your business forward, and then you get stagnation of the economy, which we've seen. I think this year is about trying to convince businesses that you need to invest that marketing. Otherwise, your boat is going back to shore with no fish. Also, when you're looking at fishing analogies, there's levels to it, because I've got a boat that who puts the fuel in it, and that's cash flow. How do I get it? So I have to then either get a loan or I have to bring in business without any cost to pay for that. And there's free sales techniques that you can do, networking, getting out face-to-face with people, or it's using your friends and family. And that's how most people start businesses, is they're filling the boat with fuel from their own free energy. If you haven't got a network, you have to go and buy one. And that's what digital marketing is these days.
And the sad story is that when the times are tough, the first thing what business is switching off is marketing.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when the times are tough, when everybody stops marketing, to market yourself becomes a lot cheaper.
Yeah. The biggest point that I proved last year was that I grew an agency in 1 year, 7 staff plus 2 founders, with just meta ads and a spend of around about 1,500 to 2,000 a month. And I created over 3,000 leads, of which were suitable for the business, and converted 1% of those. But that 1% is enough to bring an agency from nothing to a very sustainable, large revenue stream. And we've then got the ability to sell to those leads that we didn't sell to this year with different techniques. And then we've refined our processes to the point where that investment was paid back 20-fold, but that investment has been sunk back into creating better processes and streams so we can actually grow the business quicker this year. And that took me 15 years to learn how to grow that business by doing XA Digital. Not wrongly, but I wanted to test whether I can do it in a non-organic way, and I can actually create a system and a process that grows an agency quick. And I did it. The testament of that is the fact that I chose a really good business partner. I also chose the right niche, which is very conceptualized, strategy-based content for social media, but mainly the strategy of what are we creating, why, how do we put it across TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and how do we utilize that in a format that's affordable, but also it will drive sales off the back of that with the background I've got in marketing, branding and websites.
I'm super proud of you. Well done.
I know. XA is very much focused on being that outsourced full service agency that can conceptualization and brand to web to really staying in touch with customers. And then Empire X is more, we need a social media agency to take us from X to Y. And we need to be like, okay, this needs to be leveled up. We want a viral business. Social media as a concept these days is a necessity, but also people see it as an extra, but it's a much bigger part of your business than you realize. Social media, it's not always done properly. It's done to a high standard. So you may have great videos, you may have great script, but you may not be doing it for the right reasons. So you may not be getting the sales or the organic growth that you need to actually achieve social greatness. You're just doing social media. We all wash our car. Do we do it to a standard of an actual premium valet or someone that's going to detail it in the way that you really want it? People in their business aren't a premium social media expert.
No.
They are grabbing it like it's a DIY hammer and nails, but ultimately it does need that expert touch, because there's certain levels of social media that you need to realize are there. There's standard social media, which everyone needs to do, mid-range social media, which is good images, good video, staying in touch, engagement. And then there's supreme social media, which is growing your brand from 2x to 1,000x in terms of revenue. And to do that, you have to have viral videos. You have to have videos gaining hundreds and thousands of views. But you want to be building that over time, and you have to be dedicated to that repetitive content style. And you have to be really dedicated to actually putting the money and the investment into that. Because once you stop, you start again. Because the algorithms effectively are following progression. Most of the things that are set up by social media companies are based on interactive algorithms. And those interactive algorithms are watching what you do on your account. So if I'm on my account liking other people's posts, they're saying, oh, this company's active. But if the company's not active and they think a social media company is just posting for you once a week, they're going to think, they're not actually an engaged customer. We're not going to show them content. We're not going to give them upwards position on the platform. They're actually going to down rank you. So if you perform as a business like a content creator, that's what Empire X is focused on. It's trying to adapt businesses to being more of a content creator by utilizing their ambassadors or staff or internal people, and actually driving that algorithm to mean that social media becomes more of a prominent marketing tool. But on the back of that, we've got the ability to take email marketing, digital PPC, AdWords, paid media across social media. And then you've also got the fact that you can generate data, so then that feeds into your actual audience base. And then you can start finding other ways to engage with them offline, and then bridge that gap with things like QR codes and interactive media. Pulling all of that together is revolutionizing the marketing company.
Keeping yourself busy. Would you say it's true that every business has to become a content creator?
If we look at social media, if it's going to diminish and retract, what is going to happen with content? All I can see is that social media is going to progress. It's going to become augmented. It's going to become digitalized. It's going to become AI driven. So as a business, if I create a product or I create a service, how am I going to connect with people if their attention isn't on anything I use? Say Instagram becomes augmented reality focused or becomes the metaverse. If my business isn't in the metaverse, or I'm not blockchain focused, for example, and I'm not able to engage with customers in those digital spaces, my business doesn't exist.
You're going to be left behind.
Because most people live in a digital world, and they are not the customers of the future that most brands are going to connect with. So we've got to develop future plans to actually connect with them. And the way to do that is content. As you know very well, Thomas, quality of content is king. But what's happening now is that you can create high quality content on a phone. But the problem is that also lowers the standard of content if everyone's trying to do it. So we still need people like yourself or companies like us to say, this is the quality that we are leading with. You need to match that. Or someone out there is creating content that we're actually aiming for. The future of businesses and social media is embrace it, don't ignore it. But also, the world's changing. Because we're getting older and generations of business owners are getting older, what we're seeing is that they're ignoring technology because there's a fear of technology. But if you've got a fear of technology, you have a fear of progression and growth.
Yeah.
A fear of growth in business is a damned near end of business. The biggest thing is that social media and content is the future. I don't think social media and content is going to be eradicated by anything. It's going to be enhanced by AR, AI. The metaverse is going to be something that will hit in 5 years. If you haven't got a store that's in the metaverse, it's augmented. You've got content that is across the creatorverse. What I mean by creatorverse is every person's a creator. When you go back to old school business and you look at candlestick makers, bakers, they were creators. But what people are making now, they're not just making products, they're making content surrounding that product. But content itself is a product. So what I see is that we've got to bridge the gap between content creation now and what content creation looks like in 5 years. Ultimately, that style of content isn't going to exist. We've got to look at the way that we bring in technology. In our agency, for example, we're creating content with AI. And to be able to do that means that we're able to take the latest technology and apply it to businesses or brands that we work with and lower costs, but produce better quality. And over time, we can apply that to different styles.
But at the same time, you need to guess and anticipate what's the next big thing, where the marketing, where the videos, or where the content or the style of the content goes. One of the teachers told me that they teach the kids for the jobs that don't exist yet. They don't know what's going to happen the next 10, 15 years. It's close to impossible to guess. The world moves so quickly. Technology changes so fast. It's very difficult to anticipate.
But that's why I think we need to embrace the leaders. We've got people like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, other technology-based companies like Nvidia who are creating the future, but we're spun by the old school media who are trying to make us ignore those people. We celebrated people like von Braun in the sort of wartime era. We celebrated him for the rocket propulsion system, who took the Apollo spaceship into the moon. We celebrated him, but we're not celebrating someone who genuinely is a citizen of the United States, who's created one of the most amazing technological advances in transport, internet technology, in space, and we're constantly vilifying him. We're fearful of people that are thinking into the future. I talk to people about blockchain, and I talk to people about the art of smart contracts, and I talk to people about technology. Majority of the time, they're not fearful, but they're kind of questioning whether that is legitimate. And I said, go back to the 90s and talk about the dot-com boom. If you look at the dot-com boom and how websites and www. God knows what back then, they didn't understand it. They thought it would be a flash in the pan. Even Jeff Bezos went to people at Microsoft and said, I've got this great idea, and they laughed at him. So you've got companies that didn't invest and they lost out. You've got companies that took advantage of it, which Amazon was effectively just a supermarket online. It was nothing unique. It was just utilizing the dot-com era. If you think now we're on the edge of blockchain, the metaverse, the people that have adapted to it, that are called loonies or crazy crypto guys, those people will be the millionaires and billionaires of the future, and everyone else is going to be angry because they didn't adapt to it. And it's difficult to adapt because there's a fear behind it. But what I say to that is, if you don't embrace your fears, you embrace your negativity. And with negativity comes loss. The opportunity could have been gained. We're in an age where opportunities are shown to us every day. Crypto opportunities, business opportunities. There's changes in technology where you can take AI, a computer, and an idea, and you can create a business. If you're fearful of that, you'll never do it. And your older self will look back and say, why didn't I do that?
I should have.
Yeah, because I look back at the dot-com era and think I should have bought more domain names. And I should have held on to them. Why didn't I buy Bitcoin in 2014? The point is because we don't see our opportunities or look forward enough. And even if you're forward thinking, you're only looking 2 to 5 years.
So do you think people overall are reasonably close-minded?
I think opportunities are shown to those who embrace their uncomfortable situation. People that are comfortable are usually fearful of the future. But what I'm trying to do is ride the wave and watch as I figure out whether I can find an opportunity or I can see a boat on the horizon. And effectively, what you've got to do is take adversity and fear and turn it into promise and opportunity. Optimize that situation to your advantage, because if you don't do that, you will sit in regret. And regret is the biggest killer of opportunity.
While I was listening here to you, I was quietly thinking in my mind, I'm so glad we're not doing this on Zoom. I'm so glad to have that face-to-face connection, the real human being, because by the sound of it, we might gonna miss that a lot in the future.
Yeah, there'll be an increase of reclusiveness and an increase in lack of face-to-face. Unless we retain that and we support it and we constantly have in the front of our mind, face-to-face is the new future, because the ease of slipping into your pajamas, going down to your desk in the house and slipping on to a Zoom is so easy to do and it's efficient to do. But the difficulty of going to an office or going to a meeting and spending an hour traveling, efficiency has eradicated the benefits of face-to-face. I would love to keep that.
Well, at least part of our lives. We can't avoid, we're still going to end up having meetings on Zoom and everything because of the efficiency. I would love to keep that human connection.
I do generally think that a lot of people want to be face-to-face, but due to the pandemic situation where people were driven by fear into their homes to say you can't go out and talk to people, it benefited technology companies. What I found really harrowing was that whilst the stocks of technology companies went up, people's mental health went down. We look at face-to-face as an inconvenience, but for me, I think for mental health, for the increase of endorphins when you speak to someone, and the fact when you're looking at someone, you're getting social cues. You're not staring at a screen where someone's actually reflected. With that in mind, you're always going to see everything reflected, whether it's what they say, whether it's what they're looking at, how they're dressed. And there's nothing better than a face-to-face meeting of minds, casual conversation. That's what we have to champion.
It's a lot easier to understand what other person is feeling. Probably most of the times you say one thing and you actually mean slightly different one. I'm always telling to my clients, it's a lot easier to discuss a visual content or creative ideas in face-to-face. I find it very complicated to do that on Zoom meetings.
The difficulty with creative ideas is that when you're on a Zoom or you're not face-to-face, is that you're constantly watching the clock. So the context of the situation is to end the Zoom call as quickly as possible, rather than to enjoy the company of someone or a lunch, or to feel that you're in a comfortable position. When you're on a Zoom call, you're effectively on a 30-minute, an hour-long slot.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting to the point. You're not casually speaking. You're not creatively bound to each other. In person, you're talking about an idea. You've got a lot more of a bodily mannerism where you can actually connect with that customer and you can say, what about this? What about that? And also something like WhatsApp, for example, you can say something on WhatsApp via text and it's completely taken out of context. You could say, no, I don't like that. They've taken it in a negative connotation. But in reality, if you were in the same room, that would be taken as a creative input. So it would be, oh, I don't like that, Thomas. Let's change it. Let's do this. And there's a different way to the way we talk. Textually as almost robotic. So things like adjective words like excitement and joy and anger and pain are eradicated on text. Face-to-face is important about context. It's about friendship building and relationship building. And also, you've got other environmental impacts. The point of face-to-face is human. And I think we need to be more positive, more loving, more human. And that's where face-to-face really comes in. So lunch next week.
Sounds good to me. Well, speaking from the design point, what do you think about latest Jag ads? And I've noticed you drive a Jag.
As a buyer of any car, you buy into the brand as much as you buy into the product. I always wanted a Jag when I was younger. I wanted a 4x4, tried a few in the market, went for an F-Pace because it was the most amount of comfort and quality for the price. But also as a drive, it drives like a fast car. Jaguar, it was always an old man's car.
Yeah.
But I never felt like an old man buying it. I felt like actually it was enjoyable and it was something to have as a replacement for something like a Range Rover or a 4x4 Kia or Toyota. It was, at the time, my choice of car, and the brand was very strong. Now what they've done is they've tried to appeal to a wider, more, shall we say, sort of mainstream market, and by being risky, I think it will backfire. I like some of the branding. It's quite sleek, but I think the choice of colours is probably alienating the male audience. By trying to represent a inclusive brand, it's positive from an inclusive sense, but I think you're going to alienate your actual customers. Sometimes when a brand doesn't study the people that buy their products and they listen to certain people in their marketing department and they're steered collectively, groupthink effectively is where a lot of people agree on the wrong thing. Or sometimes a lot of people agree on the right thing. When you're looking at a company and you have groupthink about, oh, we're going in this direction because Rachel from accounts has pink hair. Rachel can celebrate her pink hair, but that should not be representative of everyone in the company. And we're risking a kind of world where diversity and minority becomes a pillar. Companies will rest on that pillar or they will ignore it. And if you ignore it, you're doomed. If you go too far, you're doomed. So I think there's got to be an inclusivity middle ground where we're thinking of people and different audiences, but we're not alienating audiences that have got us to where we are. It's like being a company that specialises in estate agents and then suddenly swapping to women's clothing only and a market or beauty. So, if you completely rotate your company, you're going to have to replicate that company in a different audience, and it's going to cost you a lot in acquisition costs. It's going to cost you a lot in marketing. And a company that big to then swap its whole audience base, I think is a massive risk and it will backfire. And I think Jaguar will end up scrapping the whole campaign. Or they'll have to re-masculinize their brand. I don't think there's any shame in being masculine these days. But if a brand is saying we're not going to be masculine anymore, then lose your male customers.
At the end of the day, you should be taking risks in business, but those risks has to be calculated.
If they don't act quick, I think they will lose a huge amount of market share. I think Range Rover being connected to Jaguar will also suffer. other brands, if they compete in terms of, they would take advantage. So we could be seeing goodbye to Jaguar in the next 10 years.
So what's happening, where marketing is taking us, and what's going to happen in the future with marketing?
Marketing is constantly evolving. It's critical from every angle. You should never stop marketing. I always say that if your business is busy, you should be busier. If your business is not busy, you should be busy. And the only way to get busier is to sell. And the only way to sell is through marketing. The gap I see in the market is the fact that marketing is always seen as an extended business service rather than a necessity to grow. I've spoken to a lot of brands recently that say, I just don't have the budget. And then I say, you should have the budget. And it's not to say you should have the budget to pay me. You should have the budget to market your business. If you don't have an exterior sales strategy or an alternative to marketing, you do not have sales. So if you do not have sales, you do not have a business. And I come across a lot of businesses that genuinely do not have a viable business. So the trends I see in the marketing sphere is a move to automated marketing funnels. The growth in the coaching world that I've seen, or in B2B lead generation, is that lead generation is going to take a much bigger part of the marketing pot, and it will become much more important for businesses to have lead generation and ads and passive and aggressive marketing tactics to generate leads for their business. You've got to constantly be passively reaching out, because referrals and organic leads are reducing. And I think there'll be an increase in paid leads. We're selling a lot more at XA Digital. We're specialized in finding your audience, finding routes to market, and finding solutions to filling that gap. Because if you've got a gap of 10 clients, for example, you've got to then fill out the gaps with alternative clients. What we look at is alternative media. So we look at social media platforms, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or even Pinterest or Telegram, or even X. So obviously as a marketing trend, I see lead generation taking the forefront. I see organic media like SEO reducing. AI will take most of that in terms of SEO, content writing, search terms, backlinking. AI is just going to swipe the floor. There's going to be a reduction in graphic design jobs because Canva and different AI technology is going to take that off the cards. There's going to be an increase in content, which is great for us. Creating content and creating UGC creator-based or owner-based content is going to be key, such as podcasts, such as face-to-face camera shots or testimonials or on-the-street content. That's going to be increasing over time. And I think we're going to see a huge increase in marketing in blockchain, the metaverse. People are going to start embracing that. And if they don't, we'll help them. We're an agency that believes in the future of technology around blockchain. Web3 will be a metaverse style Internet of Things where you'll be able to discover and engage on the blockchain without having to realize there's more levels to it. There's smart contracts, there's tokenization, crypto, and there's lots of opportunities there for businesses to take advantage and monetize and tokenize their products as well. Yeah, the future is bright.
So how does well-designed website contribute to a brand's overall marketing success?
A well-designed website for your business, it acts as your shop window. I've been saying this for 15 years, and I still feel like people don't always understand that if you've got a shop, a physical shop, you'll make sure the window is pretty, you'll make sure that it's attractive to people walking past. Your website is a representation of that. The reason it was called an online shop window from the 90s onwards was because people were going to that and witnessing a business within 5 to 10 seconds. Your design and your UX, which is the user experience of your website, is important because if you don't have a website that engages your customer and it doesn't sell your product or your concept within a very fast period of time, your website will not deliver. So they won't engage, they won't convert. They will effectively become a short-time visitor and become a non-visitor very quickly. So if your website isn't well designed, isn't well built, isn't functional, your business will have less of a conversion of that customer, which means you are losing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds a year by having a website that doesn't perform, that isn't mobile friendly, but isn't suitable for your business. Businesses need to invest in a website every 5 years minimum. They need to make it dynamic, they need to update it, and they need to make it very, very much a representation of their brand, their ethos, and their messaging. And obviously have great video content, and obviously have a great design from XA Digital.
If you got a shop window, you dressed it up and it's not looking engaging, it's not looking inviting, you're not going to step a foot into that shop and you're not going to buy anything and just going to walk away.
If you've got a website and you think, what am I putting on it? Think of it as the shop and think, I'm a bakery. If the bakery has lots of bread in the window, you instantly know that they sell bread. If you've got a clothing shop that has clothes hanging in the window, then you know that it sells clothes. If you've got a website that has nothing on the front that represents anything you do, no one knows what you do. So if you sell carpentry equipment and you haven't got the equipment or the words carpentry equipment on your website, on the top fold of your website, you are effectively telling people that you don't know what you do and they don't need to know what you do. So if you actually envisage walking down the high street, you need to engage with people properly. And then you think, okay, if someone walks into the shop, how is my greeting? And on your website, how is the greeting? Is the experience good? Or are you saying, take a seat? And then there's a cold environment. Your website has to be the same as welcoming someone into your shop. And if you're not giving people that sense of, hello, I would like to serve you and I would like to sell you something, they are going to feel unwelcome, they will leave, and they will never come back. Businesses need a shop window that is pretty. That's why we spend a lot of time designing them. That's why we put great content. I do think that's a prominent point that people need to think about.
So, video content has become one of the most powerful marketing tools. In your experience, why is video marketing so effective compared to other types of content?
Yeah, so I think video marketing has grown in popularity and is much better than other content for one reason. You can say 20 times more in a video in a shorter period of time than you can in an image. However, video in a short form and long form setting has its place, but I still don't think it will eradicate simple messaging on a graphic. So what we've got to try and do is bridge the gap between simple messaging. I take the word sale, for example. The word sale on a red background with white text is one of the most prominent and powerful graphical images ever created. But how do you represent the word sale or the concept of a sale in a video, short or long form, as quickly as that? So we're never going to remove the art of graphics and animation because it's so quick to get across a message of a simple concept. But what video does is it takes a concept, elaborates and educates. And what I love about video content, especially good video content, is that it will tell a story and it will give an emotion and it will tell everything you need to know about that simple concept you looked at. Let's take a sale, for example. How do I put across in that one message what the sale is into a video? In a short form video, I will say sale, 30% off our clothing, our range of beauty products. Here's Sarah to tell you how great this is. So you can include testimonials, which is something a graphic can't do without you having to spend time reading it. And you can also watch and engage with a video with just audio. The format of how we're engaging with content these days, the reason video is so prominent and so effective is because we're engaging with content daily and being fed this barrage of content that is very much quick, short form and making us hooked. And video has to span the quick form content that we've got on social media. And then we also need to take that into being educational and telling a story extremely fast. That is why I believe in it. And I think that investment in video should be key for a business because you cannot tell a story without video unless you're face-to-face. But if we're seeing face-to-face dropping, we need more video content to bring the real world into the digital spectrum.
Nailed it.
If you're advertising to someone, you can effectively take video and use it as an ad. You can use it as an organic piece of content, or you can use it as something on your website to tell a story. What's great about video content is that when using it in advertising, we can actually give them 4 or 5 different pieces of conceptual content in one short form piece of video, which means that we can tell a story, we can tell a reason, we can give a discount, we can give a testimonial, and we can give a whole brand scripture within one short form video without us having to repeat or send individual pieces of content. And we can do that in 3 to 5 seconds or even shorter.
What role does video play in a website engagement and conversion rates?
The role video plays in website design is that it's forever becoming a way for us to put visual sales lead at the top of a landing page, for example. So if you land on a page, that visual sales lead will allow the consumer to learn about the concept or the product. We can educate them and introduce them to the reason that they're on that landing page or on that website. I find when you've got a show reel on the front of a website, you're visually telling a story of what that website is going to be about and what that brand is and what the product offering is very quickly. Without video, the aesthetic style of a website cannot be portrayed. You've got more engagement with the movement and the animation of a website Video is going to play more of a role because as it becomes quicker and internet becomes a little bit faster, video is going to become more of a content that people will use because it will be easier for it to be downloadable. It will be much faster on different devices. And I think video is going to play a part in web design up to about 80-90% of content on a website, because ultimately, why do you need anything else? Do people read text these days? Do they go onto a website and spend 40 minutes reading 10 pages of text? I don't think I've read text on a website more than a couple times, and that's by necessity. Reading text on video or listening to video or audio is the future, and web design will not be the same without video. What's going to happen with SEO and video is we're going to have to see algorithms across Google or search engines appreciate video on a website more. And where there is a high usage of video, whether it's externally linked or server-based, video is going to have to be given prominence over other content. So Google already do, at some stage, represent higher ranking for people that are using video. So I do think there is an element of that, and I think there's an element of video becoming something that can also extend your ranking position over people, because if you've got a brand that's got a 10-year-old website and there's no video, there's no updates, Google will not be ranking it above someone that's got updated videos, very fast-paced back-end technology, and they've got a very robust server. But server technology also has to be upped in terms of speed and quality if you're going to have a lot of heavy video. Yeah, I think it will play a big part in SEO, but I think there's still work to be done on that.
Considering YouTube is second biggest search engine, is there any help to have a video embedded as a YouTube link onto your website, or would be exactly the same benefits as having it directly?
With YouTube being such a prominent platform, the biggest problem we will find is that YouTube might end up becoming a search engine itself. So will YouTube develop profiles which are essentially websites for businesses? The way I see it is that YouTube could effectively just become a website-based platform.
Because it's exactly the same thing as you're saying. Nobody reads these days. If you do a search on Google, most likely you're going to end up with the results which you actually need to read. If you search on YouTube, whatever question you got, someone is going to be sitting there and explaining to you, or actually showing how to solve the issue you were searching in the first place.
So why doesn't YouTube just make larger profiles under videos that essentially acts as a landing page? So your video will then become a conversion tool, because you can add forms to it, or you could add different APIs and connectivity to it. YouTube might even develop into a Squarespace Wix environment where your video is already on YouTube, so why don't you have a larger profile or website? However, the website that you've got as a business could still integrate with YouTube. YouTube effectively will be an external provider of search traffic that will be able to point to your website or vice versa. So yeah, it's going to be interesting times.
Many businesses hesitate to invest in video due to budget, costings. Some people still think that's very, very expensive. What would you say to those companies if they are not sure is it worth investing?
I think companies need to look at investment into video as a longer term strategy. I do think it's very difficult for businesses to find the budget in their kitty for video, because most of the time they don't know how much video costs. There's a lot of people out there charging way over the odds. But then there's good companies like Metropolis Visual that are giving amazing quality for a fantastic price. And I think other agencies that include video into packages, that's going to be more of the norm. What we try to do is say, okay, well, if we're going to need content for social strategy or for web design, we need to include that into our budget. So we then work with partners like yourself, and at XA Digital, we need to understand that video production is a necessity for that project. So budget should be discussed, but also agencies themselves should understand that trying to make it accessible and more affordable should be the way forward. So how do we generate more content in one session? How do we generate more content for businesses that we don't need their involvement? Can we do it ourselves? Can we use our own influencers? Can we use our own narrators or models? What we're trying to do is actually create more content ourselves and also create content in one go. So saying one session a year, maybe £10,000, but that one session a year can get them £50,000 worth of content. We're producing it in a smart way, and we're understanding that that content is going to be used on various different platforms. So video investment is genuinely, I think, one of the most important things in 2025.
Aside from promotional videos, what other most effective ways businesses can use video in such a like customer testimonial, like training content and stuff like that?
The best way companies can use video, especially if you're a corporate brand, is in company ethos, internal videos to educate staff, to train staff. Training videos are incredibly valuable, especially when it comes to when you're onboarding a new staff member. It's better than sitting there for 5 hours a day for 2 weeks training them. Send them videos. And what I'm working on a lot at the moment is actually video for courses. Anyone that's got a skill, anyone that's got a training opportunity, create a course, put it online. You don't have to sell it, but you can actually offer it as a lead magnet for a lead generation campaign. You can offer it as a training manual for your staff or for an understudy. Video content, when you're looking at educational purposes, is super valuable, but I think it's also more valuable than wasting time and administration costs trying to train someone in a job that genuinely they will probably find easier on a YouTube video. Pay a good company to film it, and the content for educational purposes is a goldmine.
It's going to last you forever.
It's genius.
For the businesses just starting to explore video marketing, what would be the first steps they should take to ensure the success?
Any company that's trying to start out with video, they've got to dive in. They need to know exactly what they need it for. I think they need to talk to a strategist. They need to talk to an agency. Even if it's just a 30-minute conversation about what content can be used for, whether or not they need content. Not all businesses need content, but if they talk to a strategist like myself, we talk about your marketing for the year and think, actually, for Christmas, if you had a video, you'll up your sales by 3x. If you want to grow your company, video is one of the only ways you can do it. In 2025, if you're not doing video, you're not seen. And I generally think if you want to dip your toe in, start using your phone to film yourself and send it to an agency. And we will effectively look at it and tell you whether it's good or not. I don't film myself often. I've got people in the business that do that. However, if you dive in, if you're a business, you've got to make that jump. Because if you don't, as I said, regret is the biggest failure in business.
How can businesses integrate video content into their overall marketing strategy, including like social media, websites, advertising campaigns, and so on?
I would say that if a business is doing video content or filming their own UGC or they're producing it with yourselves or a video company, if companies are using video, they need to be using it across every part of their business. So they need to be putting it on their website. They need to be using it for educational purposes or training. They need to be using it, especially on their social media, because if your social media is strictly graphics and strictly photos, you will have a 10% chance of going viral and a 10% chance of growing your business online. Social media is becoming so video focused that we have people selling millions of pounds of products on TikTok and they don't even have a website yet. There's brands that don't even have a good brand who have a terrible product making millions on TikTok. The transition to go onto those platforms using video is imperative. I think it's one of those things that will separate businesses from success or not success. Across every aspect, I mean, from advertising, from billboards, people need video. And I will scream it from the rooftop. People need video, they need marketing, they need a good agency to hold their hand and to get them to the successful year that they need.
I would say drop the mic, but it's attached to the table.
There you go, that's my mic drop. Is that close enough?
No, it's brilliant. Thank you so much for the conversation. Always nice to listen to you, your thoughts. You're very straightforward, so you don't beat around the bush. If you got something to say, you will say it. And I highly respect that one.